Well, hello, district family. My name is Shelley Good, and I'm a children's pastor at Woodvale Pentecostal Church in Ottawa. And I've been asked to share a little bit about our family story. I wanted to introduce the family to you, but this week it's hard to get everybody in the same room together because we just have so much going on. We have anniversaries and birthdays, basketball games, parent meetings, board meetings, and student jobs. You get the idea. You guys are probably in the same boat as us, lots to do. So I thought I'd just show you who they are. This is my husband Clive, and we have been married for 13 years today. This is our anniversary. This is our daughter Caitlin and our sons Darren and Daniel. They are 17, 14, and 11. And I guess you'd say that our family is a bit unconventional in the way that we came together. On October 21st, 2005, we had our first date, and married a year later to the day on October 21st, 2006. So that date's significant to us, this date today that I'm recording this. And we didn't really realize how significant it would continue to be as well. I got married late when I was 37, and when we got engaged, we had to have the conversation about children, and we knew that because I was older, we wouldn't logically be able to have a lot of biological kids. So we had made the decision that at some point we would adopt. When we got married, we were excited to start a family, but it turned out that I would not be able to carry babies to term, and we experienced multiple miscarriages as we tried to conceive. That was one of the darkest times in my life, feeling like God had turned his favor away from me. And I walked around in so much hurt and depression and the weight of not being able to carry a child for my husband. I felt like I was letting him down. It was almost more than I could bear. And I struggled for a bit, wondering if I should share that with people. But I've realized that I've started to share my story of loss. I've realized there's so many other women that have gone through the same thing, and God's really been able to use it as I've shared it. One day when we were coming out of a visit to the fertility clinic, we just made the decision that we had had enough. We had tried so much, and we'd had enough, and perhaps God was moving us in the direction of adoption. We decided to contact an adoption agency to start the process of adopting one baby. And I remember wrestling with the loss of that dream of carrying a baby and having that child that was a perfect mix of you and your husband. And I was driving down the road one day, and God clearly spoke to my heart and said, you're clenching your hands, and you're holding on to a dream that is not my plan for you. And he said to open my hand and let go of that dream of that baby, and he would fill it with a greater blessing. And that from there, that's where the story just becomes a blur. We went through the process to adopt one baby, and then one day the social worker called me and said, Shelley, I'm wondering if you would look at a file that I'm looking at. I've just received it. It's a family of 3. And I laughed at her, and I told her that's not what we had asked for, and she just told me to think about it. I humored her, and I hung up. I called my husband, and he was, of course, all excited about it right away. But it took me some time. I mean, seriously, the laundry for 3 kids. And I wrestled with it quite a lot, and somehow I knew deep down that these were our kids. And I called my family members for advice, and I had a conversation with my older brother Rick, who's running an orphanage in Mexico. And he said, Shell, I can't tell you what to do, but sometimes when God asks you to do something, you just have to go all in. So I hung up the phone, and I knew that God was telling me that we had to go all in for these kids. From then, I submitted to God's will, and we moved forward with our adoption process. And fast forward a bit, and we were sitting in our newly purchased minivan, because you gotta have the hockey mom van, outside the home, a home about to go and meet our kids for the first time. And a little boy, 3-year-old boy with glasses, pulled up to our window and said, "Are you gonna be our new mom and dad?" And it was over from there. He was just so cute. How could you resist? And the story of what happened from there is long, and but we're now the proud parents of 3 awesome kids. We couldn't ask for better kids than we have. People envision adoption stories as the ultimate happily ever after story about parents rescuing these poor kids and giving them a life. But really, adoption, in my experience, is just opening your hands so that God can fill it with an incredible blessing. And we have not had an easy road. It's not been easy by any stretch, and there have been challenges that naturally come along with children that have been through difficult things. But we're pretty certain that our kids are the ones doing the rescuing in this relationship. So why is October 21st so big in our home? Well, it turns out that our oldest son also was born on that day too, the day of our first date, which is really cool. So remember that the next time that you're questioning whether God has things in control, and I was crying out to God, asking him, "Where are my children? Why don't you have this under control?" And he was just looking at me going, "I already have your kids. 2 of your kids are already born. You don't even realize it." He already had it under control, because God's plans for our lives are always clearest when we look at them in the rearview mirror, right? So that's our story, and this is us. I did want to tell you, though, that currently in Canada, there are approximately 30,000 kids waiting for forever homes. And right now, there's a crisis need for foster families especially. So please take time to bring this need to your congregation or the people in your sphere of influence. And after all, James 1:27 tells us that we are to care for widows and orphans in their distress. That's what we're called to do as the people of God, as the church. So please feel free to contact me if you'd like to talk more about adoption, about loss, about fostering. Just email me at sgood@woodvale.ca, and I'd love to set up a time to just chat with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our story, and God bless you. We love you so much.